Hello, Maverick fans. Welcome to another edition of the Mavpuckcast. I'm Jason. John's here with me. Much to our dismay, we have hockey to talk about because that did not go anything like what we planned, John.
No, we did not think that the 20th episode this season was going to be our season finale on the Mavpuckcast. We thought that this was going to be a preview of our trip to the NCHC Frozen Face-Off, the first time ever that the Mavs got there, but the hockey gods were not aligned with our thinking, and certainly it was quite the series. North Dakota came into town for the first round of the NCHC playoffs. We had just played them the week before. Jason and I, it feels like we've been talking a lot about North Dakota lately on this podcast, and Jolene asked if we were going to give our NCHC semifinal and final predictions, and I said no, I don't want to talk about North Dakota any more than we absolutely have on this podcast. We're here to talk about UNO. We went into that Friday night game wondering if we would get sophomore Ty Mueller back. He had gotten injured in the St. Cloud series. He did not play up at North Dakota the week before the playoffs started. Mueller was back in the lineup. Jimmy Glynn, who was out in the Saturday night game up at North Dakota, he was back in the lineup. But senior captain Nolan Sullivan was out for most of this weekend with an injury that he sustained in that North Dakota series. Jason, what did you think about this series going in?
Well, we talked about it last week on the preview and stuff. Like, these are two really evenly matched teams. We saw on Twitter right before the game that North Dakota was getting a guy back that hadn't played, I think, all season or at least the vast majority of the season. So that was going to be a boost for them. I think it was good that in the arena they played and they tweeted this out, the interview with Tyler Weisk before the game. And he talks about how important that Friday game is to get out and not be playing from behind, to have, just a little bit of breathing room at least. And so I really felt like the guys knew the importance of that game. And through the first period, I thought it's going to be a tough sled. This is a North Dakota team that knows that their only hope to extend their season is to keep winning, and they were playing like it. And there were times where we had some good offensive possessions in that first period, and there was a lot of times where we got hemmed into our own zone. But Lakotsi was playing lights out, and so you thought, hey, he always gives us a chance to win.
Absolutely right. It was scoreless in that first period. And as you mentioned, there were a lot of times that it seemed like we got hemmed into our defensive zone. There were a number of instances this weekend where we had trouble moving the puck up the ice. And that became kind of a story across the three games played this weekend. Coming into this game, the first team to score had won 23 of the last 25 contests. So we knew that this was going to be a nip-tuck series. In that first period, Miller had a 5-minute spearing penalty, Jason. A lot of people were talking about that online, but do you believe that the 5-minute call was the right call?
I mean, live, I didn't see it. I don't know where I was watching the play. Weeze had the puck along the boards, and he tried the little, the bank pass up to Tyconic, and it got past Tyconic. And so I was watching kind of that reset and didn't see, what happened right in front of the net. We quickly pulled up our phones because luckily for a change, we've got Midco doing the broadcast. And so we've got a decent crew out there that showed the replays. So we were able to catch that right away. I mean, once I saw the replay on my phone on NCHC TV, it was, he's done. I told everyone around us, I'm like, I don't care how long this takes. I'm telling you, they're coming out of that box and they're saying he's gone, because I don't think he meant to do it, but it was a spearing penalty.
Yeah, he was wearing a suit and tie for the rest of that game. Tough break for UNO. Matt Miller is a key part of our offensive success this season. But 4:29 into the second period, defenseman Jacob Gavin gets the scoring started for UNO It was shot through traffic from the blue line. It was set up by a tape-to-tape pass from Davis Pennington. The defenseman came up big this weekend, Jason.
We relied really heavily on them on both ends of the ice. And, there are teams out there that can do well like that. I will say that coming out of that game, you haven't talked about the second goal yet, but both of our goals coming from defensemen. That was actually a concern for me for the rest of the weekend, because I really felt like our forward line struggled. There wasn't a lot of chemistry. There wasn't a lot of flow. There was a lot of missed opportunities, missed passes. It seemed like guys were on an island trying to do too much by themselves. And, we talked about at the very beginning of the season, my number one concern with this team coming into the season, being as young as they were, was where is the offense coming from? And this was the type of game that I expected all season, where we just rely completely on our defense to prevent goals as well as provide that offensive shift. So it's great that they get involved, but you're not going to beat a team like North Dakota relying on point shots. There's just too much that can happen. And honestly, Saturday, North Dakota made the adjustments they needed to. They played a tighter box that made it harder for defensemen to get pucks through. And, it's a history thing. It's what we know as, like, from a coaching standpoint. If you're getting beat that way, you know what you need to do to offset that and say, all right, let's see if you can beat me some other way.
Great analysis, Jason, as always. And as you mentioned, Pennington gets the next goal about 2.5 minutes after that goal by Jacob Gavin. Pennington gets the goal. Gavin and Bolson had the assists on that, puts UNO up 2-0, and UNO held that 2-0 lead throughout nearly all of that third period. But with 75 seconds left in the game, North Dakota's Reese Gaber ends up getting a goal on UNO. Kind of a frustrating thing for UNO fans, because we would have loved for Simon to get the shutout, but UNO goes on to win the game 2-1. Overall thoughts on that game on Friday night?
There's a few things I'd point out. One, Pennington's goal, it comes from a defenseman, but I want to, Bolson's pressure there has been his play. We've talked about it in past episodes. Like, he is that force that we need, that kid that's just, he's always going, he's always driving, and I really felt like that goal is just a product of his effort and not giving up on the play, making a good first pass, getting Gavin involved, getting the puck back up. That pressure and relief really does North Dakota a problem. And so it was, I really appreciate that. The North Dakota goal is the hard one. I think going into Saturday, it's an entirely different thing if North Dakota is sitting there going, we just spent 60 minutes and we couldn't find an answer to this goaltender. Because you're going to start trying more things. But the fact that they found a way to get one past them, it at least gave them a building block to say, okay, so we know this is working. This is getting past their D. We're going to do this to try to, maximize those types of opportunities. So it was really unfortunate that went in. And I think that carries over to Saturday more than casual fans probably think.
It was just one of those little things. It gave them a little bit of a lift right there at the end of the game. And, they had a number of opportunities through the game. It would have been great to shut them out. But again, this is hockey, and this is why we play the games. So we go into Saturday night. Fans are hopeful because we got the win on Friday night. I will tell you, Jason, that there were a lot of mutual friends that you and I have, grown men, who were saying, if UNO finds a way to win tonight, I might cry. I got to tell you, I was like, wow, this is just, fans are just really emotional about this series. So midway through the first period on Saturday, freshman forward Jackson Blake for North Dakota puts the Fighting Hawks up 1-0. But a couple minutes later, freshman defenseman Joe LeMay for UNO ties it up. He shot the puck in from way out, kind of like Gavin the night before. He shot it from the First National Bank logo out by the blue line, ties things up. He gets Omaha's first power play goal against North Dakota this season. Assists from Gavin and Bremer. What did you think of LeMay's goal, and what did you think of UNO's position at that point, Jason?
Well, I was worried because I thought we were struggling going into that power play. It came at a good time, but even our power play was struggling. And we've talked about the 0-4 going into Friday. We were 0-4 on Friday. So going into this game, we still hadn't solved North Dakota's penalty kill. So yeah, going into the power play, I wasn't very confident. I didn't think our first setup was very good. We still struggle with zone entries on that man advantage, but that low to high, and then that Bremer goes up to I think it was Gavin again, and Gavin goes over to LeMay, and that's that low to high movement that works really well on the power play, especially for us with guys like LeMay back there that can shoot. I mean, just set them up for it. Like you gotta pressure everything down, get the defense to collapse a little bit, and then release it up to them. And it works, and it was great to get it. I was still worried though. Like I still was looking at going like, it's a power play goal that takes a monkey off our back, but we got a long way to go because North Dakota is clearly in this to be where, we need a game 3 on Sunday. And I was just really concerned about our ability to come. Like I just didn't think we're gonna be able to come back from anything if we let them have the next one in. And it was a really tight second period, and North Dakota gets that one late, and I think that really hurt our spirits going into the locker room.
North Dakota retakes the lead with a power play goal from Tyler Clevin, and as you mentioned, tough to be down 2-1, especially with a late goal in the period like that. Clevin's goal turns out to be the game winner. With about a minute left in regulation, UNO gives up an empty netter to North Dakota's Dylan James, who we talked about a lot last week on the podcast. North Dakota ends up winning the game 3-1, so it's tied 1-1. This was a scenario that I predicted on the podcast. You and I both thought last week when we gave our predictions that this would go 3 games. We were hopeful that UNO would get the W on Sunday in that rubber match. And early on, it looked like that might happen. The team was back in their alternate gray jerseys, which have proven to be successful for them. Jason and I are superstitious. So, whatever clothing they wear that they have success in, we want them to wear that all the time. But 14-14 into the first period, Jimmy Glenn back in the lineup this weekend, gets the scoring started in the game and gets the scoring started for UNO. Pennington did a nice job getting the puck in front of the net for Glenn to put away. It was a beautiful goal. What'd you think of UNO being up 1-0 at that point? I'll tell you what, Jason, Baxter Arena, even though it was half full, seemed like it was louder than I've ever heard it before. That UNO cheer was just booming from the fans after that goal by Jimmy Glenn.
Well, and even before that, we kill off the 5-on-3 off two terrible calls by the referees. I mean, this will be my rant for this podcast. I have never seen referees in a decision game 3 like this get that involved in a game. I mean, you've got to call stuff that are obvious penalties, but these ticky-tack things that are like, I don't even think the first one, the guy was holding his stick when he stepped on it. It's like, you can't call those 50-50 things in a game like this. Like, let the guys play hockey, and then the guy dives over Weiss's stick, and we're going to call that one too, so that North Dakota has a 5-on-3. I'm like, are you trying to give them the game? It's very suspicious here what's going on. But UNO gets through it, and at least our section, I mean, I really felt the energy up in 216. It was electric up there. I felt the entire arena just, really stand behind the team and say, like, you guys can do this. And I think that energy carries over, and that just pushes UNO, because some of their best play came after, in those couple minutes after that culminated in Glenn getting that goal. So it was definitely great. Like you had said, the team that scores first typically wins. So that's a good position to be in. But I also looked at it going, we were not playing well. at all. And we're going to need some help to hold on to that.
As Jason mentioned, the officiating in the Sunday game had the conspiracy theories swirling. Black helicopters were flying over Baxter Arena at that point. Fans are still talking about it. And it's been a couple days since that game took place, Jason. But the Mavs leave the first period up 1-0. But 2:36 into the second, North Dakota's Jake Schmaltz ties the game up 1-0 on a power play goal. Certainly, we knew at that point, and we suspected throughout most of this game that it was going to be a dogfight. But 12:04 into the second, Berg puts Omaha up 2-1 with a shot from the slot. It was a great pass from Proctor to set that up. What did you think about UNO being up 2-1 at that point?
It's, it sucks giving up the power play goal, but you kind of figured as many as we were giving them, as many as the refs were giving them, ultimately one of those is going to end up. So, it sucks, but it was tied. I was like, we'll take it. We're still 1-1, hopefully that'll light a fire under him and we'll find a way. I really liked Berg scoring. I thought that was a great play. His move to the middle in that shot. We need him to shoot more. This team, like, he was one of the ones we talked about at the beginning of the season, that his play, his offensive ability was really going to drive this team. And so in a decision game like this, to have him step up and get a goal, that's a good sign for UNO. The unfortunate thing is late in the period, UNO with 30 seconds left gives up a shorthanded goal. And I mean, there's so many things that deflate about that. And I've talked to a number of people and we're like, that really was the turning point in that game, because one, you never want to give up a goal late. That's the, you're going in the locker room thinking we're up 2-1 and now you're going in, we're 2-2. Where did this go sideways? Right. And then two, I mean, shorthanded goal, you just can't do that. You have an extra player. You should have two on the puck at all times. That just can't happen. But it did, and it's unfortunate. And you just kind of hoped that going into the third, UNO would come out with some energy really quick. I was really hoping that they come out and really just, put the pedal through the floorboard and just kind of go all out with North Dakota.
Yeah, definitely a tough position for them to be in. I really do think North Dakota tying it up late on that shorthanded goal in the second period changed the complexion of the game and changed the complexion of the third period. UNO held that 2-2 tie through a relatively long stretch of the third period. And then all hell broke.
2 minutes happens.
Yeah, with 5:14 left in the third period, North Dakota takes the lead on a goal from Griffin Ness. It was really heartbreaking, because looking back at the video on that, it looks like Lacozy just kind of falls down. We learned later in the post-game presser that apparently his skate got caught in a rut in the crease. So he goes down, he falls on his butt. And when you look at the play, he really didn't have a chance to stop that shot by Griffin Ness, Jason.
Yeah, it was a broken play on so many levels. It was a broken play just to get the turnover and get North Dakota into the game, into the zone. So, that right there was just kind of like nerves setting in. And then, Lacozy's out of position. We learned because of the rut, and we got defensemen sliding all over trying to play goaltender. And it's just like, oh, this is not going to turn out well for us. And, it doesn't. And, it's unfortunate, but at that point in time, you got to come together as a team and say, no big deal. We got this. We're gonna get it back. We're gonna pressure. We're gonna push. And we've got, quite honestly, 5 minutes isn't it's rough, but you still have time to score. You're not out of it. What really hurts is that a minute later, and you let another one in, and you're just like, well, now what? Because now you're talking about 3 minutes needing two.
Within the next couple of minutes, North Dakota scores two more goals. They score those goals in fairly short order. And as you mentioned, it was almost like when North Dakota got that go-ahead goal to go up 3-2, the team just sort of fell apart emotionally. I got the sense, and a lot of us got the sense throughout all three of these games, that the team was kind of tired. I'm sure the injury situation played into that, but UNO ends up losing the game 5-2. Not the outcome that we were hoping for, but I will say this: Jason and I are both big Ted Lasso fans, and one of the things that Ted Lasso says all the time is that you got to be the goldfish. You got to have a short memory and move on. So UNO fans, just don't let it get to you. Players, coaches, don't let it get to you either. I will tell you, normally I don't get real high or low on wins and losses. I've seen lots of great wins over the years with this team, seen lots of horrible losses over the years. It doesn't affect me. But when I watched Coach Gabinet's press conference after the game, man, I got emotional because the guy he looked so emotional and so worn out and beat down. I know that this was not the outcome the team was hoping for, but the team exceeded expectations this season, Jason. They were playing with house money throughout the season. So it was one of those things. And North Dakota is a team that gets into your head. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And I think, the hard part is, as fans, as a fan base, is, you want your team to win, and you've seen them win, and you've seen them perform well. And, you look at a game and you say, this is just not, this wasn't our best effort, or, those were just poor mistakes. And, I think what we fail to look at is what you said, is this team was way, way outperforming what, really everyone expected. And so even though it ends the way it ends, and we're all a little scarred from, the opportunity that slipped through our fingers, in all due respect, like, the expectation was that this would have happened to us in 2 games instead of 3 in Grand Forks, not in Omaha. So there's a lot of stuff that went right for this team. And to see the fan base come together, the attendance this season, I know they talked about it a lot down the stretch. We had a sellout. I think we had a couple sellouts, I think, in there in the last few weeks. There was great energy during the playoffs. It's a really motivated fan base. These are people that are committed to the team and to be a part of that community. Like, it's an honor for me, just to have friends that support this team and say, hey, we're with you. So, to the players, if on the off chance that any of you actually listen to this, I appreciate that they put in their effort and they did everything that they did. And, I really think that the majority of the fan base is I don't know what words I want to use here, but, like, we're not happy about the way it ended, but, we feel for them, and we're so proud of the efforts that they put in and what they were able to accomplish this season. And, hopefully it's a sign of things to come. It would be great if next year this team, makes another run at it, and this is a sign that this is a long-term program and not, a bunch of guys who are going to jump ship and just take off for greener pastures somewhere else.
As we mentioned, they exceeded expectations. And as you know, this is the fan community I love being a part of. A big part of my life is following this hockey program. And I love the effort by the players and the coaches this season. We were picked to finish 7th. And that was what was really interesting about this series. You had a team in UNO that had overperformed all season, and you had a team in North Dakota that had underperformed all season. And when those two teams clashed, it created for a very interesting series. It was a very kind of weird series too for UNO, but that's playoff hockey this time of year. So I don't fault the team at all. A great effort all season long. And like you said, I hope these guys stay together. We've got 9 freshmen on the roster this season. So a very young team, a lot of guys who haven't experienced the grind of college hockey and NCHC play. So they will be better for having gone through this season. And I think they'll all be better for having gone through a playoff series like this, because in many instances, the things that define you and make you better are those failures that you experience. I mean, it would have been great to have the Cinderella story, but as we all know in life, and as we all know in sports, and it's what makes sports so compelling, things don't always go according to plan. So I will point out, on a slightly less positive note, the Mavs have not won a playoff series in conference play since 2010. Don't let it bother you, fans. Don't let it bother you, players. You will win a playoff series again one of these days. The Mavs also went 1-5-1 in 7 games against North Dakota this season. So they really had our number. Tough way for UNO to finish the season, but a lot of positives, a lot of bright spots for the team this season. So I've got to ask you, Jason, who is your player of the weekend? You got 3 games worth of action to analyze, to pick that player of the weekend. Who did you like this weekend in the playoff series against North Dakota?
There's quite a few guys that were on my list. I don't know your list. I think a lot of people forget. We don't talk about this. I don't let John know this is who I'm picking or anything. So this is all just off the cuff. So I've got a list of, I think I had 6 on my list. I was like, it's going to be one of these 6, but man, it's really hard to pick between them. For me, like there's the obvious choice, and I'm going to kind of steer away from it. I don't know, maybe you'll pick the obvious choice, what I thought was the obvious choice. I'm going to go further down the list actually, and I'm going to call out Brock Bremer. Like his energy, he's scrappy. That's how I described him when we were getting a beer at intermission once. I'm like, we're going to have to nickname him the Mosquito. He's just like annoying as all get out, it seems to teams. Like, I don't know what about him, what he does or what he says on the ice, but he always seems to be getting under the skin of the other team. And it's not just the like, go out there and hit someone or, just go be that annoying factor on the ice kind of thing. Like, he had some really good opportunities. He set up a really good goal. I hope at least that this was the year that's kind of the kickoff for him. And I expect bigger and better things from him next season.
Anytime things get chippy, it seems like Brock Bremer's there, which I absolutely love. The smallest guy on the team. He's right in there wanting to mix it up with these big forwards and big defensemen that we play in the NCHC. So yeah, one of my favorite players. It was an honor to be able to get his jersey for Military Appreciation Weekend, to be able to win the auction for that. So yeah, one of our favorite players. As we mentioned before, Jason and I got to see him before he came to play at UNO when he was with the Muskegon Lumberjacks. They came down to Omaha. And yeah, we were really impressed with him then. So yeah, an exciting player. I always like, Jason, how you pick guys who are off the beaten path. But I'm going to go with defenseman Davis Pennington, Bridget's favorite player. He had his first goal of the season, which to me was just crazy. I just assumed that he had gotten a goal this season. We've got a lot of great offensive defensemen. He has 1 goal and 15 assists this season. A really great player, always plays out there with a lot of heart. And I thought he was great all weekend long, Jason.
Good pick. I think we need to do some honorable mentions after that, though. Because I really like, my list included Lakotsi and Gavin, too, because I thought I don't want anyone thinking that Lakotsi was the reason why we lost any of those 3 games. He was solid for us through the stretch, and there was some question about his health kind of going into Saturday's game. Something happened in Friday's game, and so yeah, to see him play through that and give the performance that he did Saturday and Sunday, kudos to him. And then being a freshman, that's a bright spot for UNO in the future.
And you mentioned Jacob Gavin had a goal and 2 assists on the weekend. One of our Quebecois defensemen, along with Joe LeMay, who both have known each other since they were kids playing in Quebec. Great weekend for a lot of players. And as you mentioned, Simon had a terrific weekend. He really kept us in those games, even though Jason and I thought they should start Kuharski. And we mentioned that on last weekend's episode. Jason and I just like to be a little contrary with our picks, but Simon has really come into his own this season. So we are expecting big things from him coming up the next couple of years. But for our season finale, we've got to have a couple of things you missed at Baxter Arena. And because it was a playoff series, there wasn't a lot of new new wrinkles that they threw into the games this weekend. But a couple of weeks ago, I mentioned on the podcast that Bridget and I were trying to see this Tuba parade that we'd been hearing about, the Tuba's parade around the concourse. And Bridget and I were looking for the Tuba parade at the wrong time. We thought it happened before the game, but it happens during the second intermission. Yeah, and we just assumed that they would parade behind our seats. They go the opposite side. They go behind the club seats toward the Lawler's merchandise booth. But we were very excited. I think it's called the Tuba Parade. I think that's what the Tubas call it on their official Twitter account. Bridget calls it Tubas on Parade, like elephants on parade. So the Maverick Maniacs accompany them from the student section as they head toward the Lawler's booth. They did Hey Baby, and they played the fight song. So it was a lot of fun to see. Jason, have you seen the Tuba Parade?
They did it, 3 seasons ago? I haven't seen it this season.
Apparently they did it a few seasons ago. So thankfully, Bridget decided to follow the Tuba Parade and get some footage of this. So if you're watching on YouTube, everybody can now experience the Tuba Parade. So I'm glad we got to see that before. That was on Friday night that we saw it. We don't know if they did it Saturday night. They did not do it on Sunday night. So maybe that's the reason we lost the game. Tubas, you gotta keep the tradition up every game during second intermission. So that was a lot of fun. Glad we got to see that. And then the second, things you missed at Baxter Arena. And I missed this a couple of weeks ago when UNO was playing the St. Cloud series. And the seat that I normally sit in, seat 2, is broken. The spring has broken in the seat. Apparently, all of you noticed this because you're like, oh, yeah, we noticed that last week during the St. Cloud series. I sat in seat 1, which was the seat my dad sat in for many years because it's easier for me to get clips of the game from seat 1. Just the angles work a little bit better from there. So I didn't know my seat was broken until Friday night of this North Dakota playoff series, Jason. We've had those seats since we started watching and attending games at Baxter Arena when it opened back in the fall of 2015. I will just say, because it was broken going into that St. Cloud series a couple weeks ago, the Mavs overall went 2-5 with my seat broken at Baxter Arena because earlier in the season, that seat was not broken. Jason, what do you think of my broken seat? What are your thoughts on my seat being broken?
I'm superstitious, but even you might be stretching a little far on that one.
I mainly just had to bring this up because we didn't have a lot of things you missed for this week. Staff within the UNO athletic department watches this podcast, so please get my seat fixed before next season. You got a little bit of time to figure it out. I did not want to mention it before the playoffs because I was worried it would become one of those situations where they would remove the seat and then there'd just be a blank hole there. And I will tell you, my nephew Blaze and my niece Scotland, they were both fighting over that chair because they both want the broken seat. So who knows? Kids these days, I don't get it, Jason. The other thing I want to touch on, and these will be announced after we do this podcast, NCHC award nominees for UNO. No Omahans made the all NCHC first team or all NCHC second teams, but there were a couple of honorable mentions from UNO. Forward Jack Randall, who had a great season for the Mavs, and Simon Lacozy. LeMay and Gavin were both named to the all-rookie team, which I thought was a great honor for two of our freshman defensemen. They have been terrific this season. The individual awards will be announced at the NCHC awards ceremony right before the NCHC Frozen Face-Off starts. Mike Gabinet was nominated for the Herb Brooks Coach of the Year. I think I made a pretty compelling case on Twitter why he should be the winner of that award. DU's David Carl and Western Michigan's Pat Ferschweiler are the other nominees. Kirby Proctor was nominated for Senior Scholar Athlete of the Year Award, which is voted on by the conference's faculty athletics representatives. Simon was nominated for Goaltender of the Year, which I think we both would agree is a well-deserved honor. Victor Mancini is nominated for Defensive Defenseman of the Year, Jason. And Nolan Sullivan is nominated for Defensive Forward of the Year. I don't know if Mavpuck is nominated for NCHC Fan Site of the Year or if the Mavpuckcast is up for NCHC Podcast of the Year, Jason. I'm just joking. They don't actually do those awards, but they should do those awards because I think we would clean up, Jason. So
wipe the floor with our lack of competition.
We'll take any honors any way we can get them. Jason, what do you think of our individual award nominees?
Yeah, I'm not a big individual award kind of guy. Like, I'm happy for the guys. I commend them because they certainly deserve it. It's just, for me, I'm more of a team guy. I would be surprised. There's certain players on the team and stuff that I know well enough to say, like, on the list, they wouldn't really care. They're, we lost to North Dakota, and that's probably all they're thinking about right now. So I'm with you in your Twitter rant. How you would vote against Gabnet as Coach of the Year this year, taking a team that was expected to be one of the worst in the conference and to be top 3 is, quite impressive. I think Western lost it when they got swept by CC in the playoffs. I think it's hard to win a Coach of the Year when that happens to you. And Denver's Denver. Like, it's easy to win when you have the puzzle pieces that Denver has. It's not a foregone conclusion by any stretch, but I look at what Gabnet done with this team, and he made these guys overperform. It seemed like almost every night. And so that's, to me, I think he deserves that one. That's the one I really hope to see come through for us.
Yeah, I completely agree. You look at the team this season, 9 freshmen on the roster, picked to finish 7th in the conference race. They lost longtime assistant Paul Gerard to cancer during the season. I know that was tough on the players. The other factor is when you look at the stat sheet from last season, the 2021-22 season, we lost 4 of our top 5 point producers that were on that team, including Taylor Ward, who was absolutely one of our top offensive threats during his time at UNO. So yeah, it was tough to lose those places. It was also tough to lose a veteran goaltender like Isaiah Seville. The only returning goaltender we had this season was Jacob Zab, who has not played who had not played a minute of collegiate hockey during his career here. So we had 2 new goaltenders, freshman in Lakozy, transfer in Kuharski. So we definitely think Coach Gabinet did a great job this season. And like you mentioned, I'm sure the players and the coaches would much rather have won that playoff series against North Dakota than win any of these honors. But I thought we should mention it, and we will definitely be sharing the winners of these awards when they are announced on Mavpuck.com and on the Mavpuck Twitter account and on the Mavpuck Facebook page. So as always, be sure to follow those. But speaking of next season, Jason, we are unveiling a new segment called Will They Stay or Will They Go?
Yeah, I'm going to put you on the spot.
Okay.
So, stay or go, we got to talk about the goaltenders.
Yep.
Kuharski.
This is one that we have debated the entire season. And I even asked Coach Gabinet about this at the dinner with the Mavs. It's like he was honored on senior night, right, Jason? But if
Correct.
you look, 2019-20 season, he was at Providence, but he didn't play any games. Then he played 2 seasons at American International, right? And then he played 1 season for us. So according to Elite Prospects, he's played 3 seasons collegiately. Plus, he gets the COVID season. I've been confused all season, and so have fans. Fans just assume he was coming in for 1 season and then he's going to move on. And I'll tell you what, if Jason and I got to go to the midweek press conferences, this is the kind of stuff that we would ask because we're interested about it. We're not going to ask, weird or odd questions. This is the kind of stuff we want to know because if this was Husker football, we would know. my gut instinct says he's not coming back next season. I think they'll bring in another goaltender. What do you think?
Well, I think you're going to hate me for this. I set you up on that one because 5 minutes ago, the Chicago Wolves just tweeted that they've signed goaltender Jacob Koharski from Omaha Hockey to an ATO. So your prediction is already correct. He is leaving.
All right. Well, so speaking of
right I know John hates me now. Sorry.
Yeah. Right now, there's a lot of doubt as to whether Jason's going to get to stay or Jason's going to get to go for not sharing that information. So thanks for the
setup. Yeah, sorry, John.
All right. Thanks for the
speech. But we got breaking news on the podcast for once. For once, we get to talk about something that has happened and not post this going, well, if only we had waited a day to record the podcast.
Boy, yeah, I'm glad that came in because that always happens. Like right after we get it recorded, we'll find out some piece of news. So I'm glad you found that out. As you know, I hate surprises. And I think you were just doing this because you know that this is the kind of stuff that gets my blood up. So yeah, I don't know if Jason's going to get to stay or go at this point, but we'll see. He
comment in the put your opinion in the comments. Should I leave or should I stay?
So Kuharski's going pro. That was the vibe that we kind of got the past several weeks. I kind of wondered if that's why we were seeing Simon and net most of the time. You know, the other players on the team, the coaches, they get wind of this stuff. You know, as fans, you start to get a vibe. So he had eligibility left, as I pointed out moments ago. But Jason with some breaking news. Jason with the scoop here. Well done for checking that out, Jason. We know Tyconic, Weiss, and Pavanka are leaving. Their eligibility is expired. Jason, do you think any of those three will end up playing pro? I mean, I'm sure that they could play in the ECHL if they wanted to. Do you think any of them will go pro here in the next week or two?
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if they get, like Koharski's getting an ATO. If any of them actually signs a contract, it's going to be Weiss, would be my opinion. He's got the best opportunity. Just with, being a draft pick in the past and, having those kind of connections, being to NHL training camps, he has an experience that the other guys don't. But to be honest, like my expectation is that a lot of the guys that we might lose, their decisions are going to be, do I go, try to make a run of it from in Europe and kind of get my start and start building my skill set there. There's a lot of questions with the guys that are out there of, Randall, he had a great season this year. Can he do it again? Right? Like you can't build a career on one 30-game season. So can he handle the grind, an 82-game grind? Can he produce when, the talent's better? I'd like as a fan, I say he can, but those are the questions that have to get answered. And that's the thing with, we're not at Denver, North Dakota. We don't have a lot of NHL draft picks, high round NHL draft picks coming to Omaha. The guys that come in here need to come in here looking to prove something, to answer the questions that scouts have. We talked about Berg this weekend and we've talked about him this season. He's an Islanders draft pick. The question for him coming in was, can he produce? Can he finish? That was the question mark I heard from, people that I talked to, was that's what they were looking for out of him. And so, we'll see, where people go. I think ATOs are probably what we're going to see the most of with our guys.
I think you're right. Now, there are a number of people who have asked on Twitter about Tyler, who, as we all know, was originally a Colorado Avalanche draft pick. Jason, what's the status of him? Because there are a lot of fans who have wondered, he came back for a fifth year. What is the status on Tyler Weiss now? I know you as a big Avalanche fan and as a big Tyler Weiss fan have been following that. Would you like to explain for the fans where Tyler Weiss is at as far as all of that goes?
I mean, it's incredibly complicated when you get into some of that situation. Like, the players that we have on the team, Berg, Mancini, Koharski, the reason why he's got an ATO with the the Wolves is because it's in the Carolina Hurricanes system and stuff. So like those are the like a little bit easier in that those teams kind of have the say in when and where you go. If they want you or they need you in their AHL program, then they're gonna push you an offer that you probably won't refuse. Weiss was when he finished up his senior year last year. He was given an opportunity to come to camp. He did pretty decent at camp. Found a little bit of chemistry here and there. But ultimately, the team decided that there were some question marks there, and he chose not to sign at that point in time and say that I'm going to go try my luck someplace else, and that someplace else happened to be him coming back here. At this point, it's not a done deal with the Avs, but he has the right to talk to other teams. And like he can, now that the season is done, he can get an agent. He can start exploring options in other places. Being from North Carolina, I'd be surprised if he's not at least talking to the Hurricanes staff. Just because if I were him, I'd want to move closer to home and be in that system that maybe I come through there at some point or something. I know that the Avalanche are still interested in him, so that's still an opportunity that exists for him. But like I said with the other guys, like I think there's still question marks with Weiss. His health, his size, his overall production, game to game, his energy level, things like that. That they're these NHL teams just don't know with him, and so he's probably going to be in a situation where my guess is he gets an ATO and he needs to go prove himself.
And if he has that opportunity, hopefully it's a good situation for him and things go well, because we would love to see him have success. So we'll just do the real quick here, the stay or go. We know Kuharski is going after Jason set me up, so thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for that, Jason. Kirby Proctor, stay or go?
I think Proctor stays. I think he's got a better opportunity at Omaha than he will anywhere else.
I completely agree with that. He had 1 goal, 7 assists this season. Nolan Sullivan, the captain, stay or go? I know the coaching staff would like to have him back.
It would be great to have that experience back on the roster. I don't know. The injury really kind of throws it into question for me. What do you think?
I think he's going to stay. That's
Okay.
Just my prediction at this point. Had 6 goals and 9 assists this season. Jack Randall, who we were talking about earlier, has 18 goals and 16 assists this season, a career year at the collegiate level for him, a transfer from Michigan. Do you think he's going to stay or go, Jason?
I'll say stay with him because I think his best opportunity is to come back to UNO and prove that he can do this all again. Have a similar season, similar success, be in a leadership role, bring some of these younger guys, these sophomores, the freshmen this year, along. I think that would be a good development thing for him.
7 penalties for 22 minutes this season, 4 game-winning goals. I think he'll come back too, but it would not surprise me at all if we find out he decides to go pro. Jacob Zab, does Zab stay or does he go? Because I think he can come back for 1 more year. Does he stay as that third-string goaltender, or does he move on to something else in life?
If the team wants him back, I think he'd come back. I mean, realistically, it would be a shock to have anyone say that they're interested in him. Can't even say he played a game. He played minutes. I mean, right now our plan is Lakotsi coming back, and we don't have anything else. And so I think the question is the staff bringing in 1 goaltender? We know we've got 1 in the pipeline, or are they bringing in 2? And some of that may be determined by what ends up later this month in the transfer portal. And honestly, I think the same could be said for Sullivan and Randall. You look at what's coming in for UNO for players that are going to be their freshman year this fall, and you look at who's in the transfer portal, and you say, is Omaha going to have a spot for me? Or am I coming back just to have an injury year and be a locker room guy? Like, no one really wants to do that. So I think the real clarity in this is going to come when we see what's out there in the transfer portal and who the coaching staff goes after.
You kind of jumped the gun on me here, Jason, because I was just getting to that. And certainly guys like Sullivan, Randall, they could decide to go try their fortunes at another school. If UNO is bringing in a lot of young talent and they don't know if they're going to get as much playing time, that will be interesting to see. Some other guys on the roster, Cam Mitchell, one of our freshmen forward, he played in 14 games. He had no goals and he had an assist. And then Michael Abgral, another guy who was a forward this season, freshman this season, played in 15 games, had no goals, no assists. It's a really interesting question because, as we know, there are some guys down roster who didn't get a lot of playing time that we don't see then going forward. And with UNO constantly recruiting players, there's a lot of guys on the recruiting lists out there right now. It does make you wonder. Any thoughts on Mitchell or Abgral coming back next season, or do you think they might go try their fortunes somewhere else?
It's hard because a lot of that for us as commentators, it's difficult because we don't know what that locker room's like. Do they have the guy that they've played all of juniors with and they're now both at UNO, where it's like, it's harder for me to leave because I got a friend here and I don't want to leave my friend, kind of thing. To be honest, I'm more worried about Mueller leaving, just because we could really use him back. Really use him back. I worry a little bit about Bolson leaving. Like, he's the type of guy that I don't know what Gabinet's plans for him are, but he's that type of player that has proven that he could do more. And the question might be, can he do that here, or is he better off doing that someplace else? So he's one that I worry about, maybe leaving early, either via transfer portal or something else. Mueller, I worry a little bit more about him, just getting an opportunity to make a go of it at the next level and saying, like, now's the time for me to take that.
Sometimes this coaching staff brings some of the younger guys along slower, and they'll find a way to get them in the lineup as some of the seniors depart. Some of the other players depart in the transfer portal, etc. But some great talented recruits coming in next year. Players like Tanner Ludke, who I've been following all season, who plays for the Lincoln Stars. Hopefully Jason and I can come back before the season to talk about some of the new guys that end up coming in, because that's always an exciting thing for us to see what freshmen are coming in, what players are coming out of the transfer portal. It's such an interesting world with free agency coming to college athletics. You just never know what's going to happen and what players are going to come in, what players are going to jump ship. But it should be interesting. So yeah, it'll be fascinating to see what happens there. But until next time, follow Mavpuck on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can find links to our social channels at mavpuck.com, as well as back episodes of the podcast, which we encourage you to watch. We encourage you to listen to. We encourage you to like, and we encourage you to subscribe to the platforms that we host those on, because it really helps the algorithm and just helps keep Jason and I going. Jason and I just want to thank all of you for tuning in this season. It's been a lot of fun. The season didn't last for us as long as we were hoping it would, but that's okay. We're going to be here regardless. There's lots of exciting things coming up for this program. Any parting thoughts, Jason?
Go Mavs.
Go Mavs.